Hi guys, my name is Trinh and today I'm here to do my November wrap up. Now, I only read 4 books in November, so I didn't read a lot because I was just like really busy. Hopefully I will get to read a lot of books in December because it is the last month. I need to read a lot of books because I'm trying to read 100 books in 2019, so hopefully everything will work out and I will read 100 books in 2019. The first book that I read is called Butterfly Yellow by Tan Ha Lai. This book put me in a reading slump a little bit, but I will talk more about that later. So this book follows a Vietnamese girl named Hằng. She comes to the United States because she's looking for her brother. Towards the end of the Vietnam War, you know, like the fall of Saigon, she and her brother got separated and her brother is being taken to the United States. Meanwhile, she is left behind in Vietnam, and then 6 years have passed. She finally has the opportunity to go to America. When she finds her brother, he doesn't remember her at all and he has a hard time adjusting to this new person in his life. Even though she is his sister, he still doesn't remember her because he was really young when he was taken away when they were in Vietnam. Like I said, this book put me in a reading slump. It's just so sad to say that because I was so excited to read this book because it is about a Vietnamese girl. It's written by a Vietnamese author and it is about a subject that's like very important because a lot of people got separated in Vietnam after the war has ended. Before I talk about my issues with this book, I do want to say a few good things about this book. I'm really happy to see the Vietnamese words in this book. Even the main character's name has the accents on the vowels. Her name is Hằng. I know that is a very hard word to say, or like a hard name to say because it is a Vietnamese name and not a lot of people can say it correctly because there's like a certain way to say it, you know, like if you see like certain accents on the vowels, the word is pronounced a certain way. I just really appreciate all of like the Vietnamese words in this book because it's so authentic because the main character is Vietnamese. It's about her and her journey to find her brother, her Vietnamese brother who was taken away when he was like really young. And also the main character is like struggling with English, and that's something that I can relate to because when I came to America back in like 2006, I struggled so much with English. The main character pronounces a lot of English words incorrectly, but she knows English. She actually knows what she's talking about, but it's just that when she pronounces words, they can come off as something else because not everyone is used to hearing her pronunciation. So I really appreciate that because it is very realistic. Like not everyone can speak English properly, like pronounces the words correctly. So I like to see that in this book because I relate to her struggle when it comes to the language. Now let's get to my complaints, like the things that just did not work for me in this book. So we have a character named Leroy and he's a cowboy. Leroy and Hằng meet together and then he helps her find her brother and then like he helps her with like a lot of things here and there. But I don't like the fact that a majority of this book is focused solely on Hằng, the main character, and this cowboy named Leroy. I was disappointed that her younger brother is not really in the book. Like we see him a few times here and there, but I feel like we don't really focus on him and his relationship with his older sister, someone that he doesn't remember, because I feel like that's like the core of the story. That is the main reason why the main character left her home country to go to America, and it's just so sad to not see that a lot in this book. We really focus on Leroy and Hằng. Eventually they get into a romantic relationship, but it's like, what about Hằng and her younger brother? Are we not going to focus on that? Because eventually I feel like that storyline gets dropped towards the end. But yeah, overall I was just really disappointed in this book, and like I said, this book got me into a reading slump because towards the last 100 pages of the book I was just like done. I didn't really care about like the book anymore because it just went in like a different direction and I was just not a fan of it. So yeah, it got me into a reading slump, but I did finish this book in November, so obviously it's in this video. So I give this book 2 out of 5 stars, and it's really sad to give this book 2 out of 5 stars, but I went with my gut and my gut says to give this book 2 out of 5 stars because there was so much potential for this book. Let's focus on the main character and the younger brother, okay? Like let's focus on that, but we didn't. We focused on the main character and someone else. That's just different, okay? And I was not a big fan of it. The second book that I read in November is The Toll by Neil Shusterman. So this book is the last book of the Arc of Scythe trilogy. I read the first 2 books in 2019, obviously. I read this book with Sandy from Sandy Reads a Lot. When it comes to the synopsis of the first book, basically this is a utopian world because death has been conquered. Everyone is immortal in some way, but in order to control the population, there are these people called Scythe, and their job is to glean people, aka kill people. So in the first book, Scythe, we follow Citra and Rowan. And in the second book, Thunderhead, we also follow Citra and Rowan, and then we have a new character named Grayson Tolliver. In this book, everything is combined into this, and then we have some new characters. Now, I will say that this is my least favorite book of the entire trilogy, and it's just so sad to say that. My favorite book has to be Thunderhead, which is the second book of the trilogy. So let's start with the good things about this book. I love the new characters being introduced into this book. So we have a person named Jericho, and they are non-binary, and I love their representation so much, and I love that they work well with other people, like with... I can't say much, I'm sorry. I was gonna say something that I shouldn't say, but I like the fact that they work well with some of our main characters, basically. And when it comes to the characters, a majority of them are portrayed so well. Our villain is a piece of shit. He's the worst. I really hate the main villain, but it's good to hate him. He is written so well, like that's why we hate him, because he just is so evil. Now let's talk about the things that I found kind of annoying. The fact that we had so many storylines, I do understand why there are so many storylines, because now we have a lot of characters, and sometimes it's hard to combine all of the storylines into like 100 pages or so. So what Schusterman does is that he would pick the most important one, he would present it to us, and then with like the other ones, we would see them later. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but ultimately I find that not working really well, because like I said, we don't see a few characters for like 200 pages, like a really long time, and when we see them it's kind of jarring because years have passed. And also the ending, it didn't really work for me. I mean, I still appreciate the religious parallels. I will always appreciate this trilogy because the religious parallels are so good, but when it comes to the ending, I felt like it was really rushed, and then the downfall of the main villain was just not satisfying. So overall, I'm gonna give this book a 3 out of 5 stars. I still enjoy this book nonetheless. I think it's still like a really good book, but there were some parts that just didn't work for me, but still I like it. It's really weird, like my relationship when it comes to this book. The third book that I read is actually an audiobook, and it's called Dear Girls, Intimate Tales, Untold Secrets, and Advice for Living Your Best Life by Ali Wong. So if you don't know, Ali Wong is a stand-up comedian. Her 2 comedy specials, Baby Cobra and Hard Knock Wife, are on Netflix, so I highly recommend watching that. I love Ali Wong so much. I discovered her comedy specials in November, and after watching those 2 comedy specials, like I said, Baby Cobra and Hard Knock Wife, I decided to listen to the audiobook. This book came out in October, I think, just like 2 months ago. So the girls in Dear Girls refer to Ali's daughters. So in this book, we learn so much about Ali Wong's life, her husband, her marriage, her kids. There was just like a lot in this book, and I love all of it because I feel like if you really enjoy her comedy specials, you will enjoy this book a lot, because when I watch her comedy specials, I already know a lot about her life. So in this book, there were some things being repeated, but then we get like an in-depth explanation to a lot of things, like for example, her romantic life when she was living in New York and how she felt really lonely. Of course, her trip to Vietnam, that was the highlight of this entire book for me, because I am from Vietnam, so I understand everything that she was talking about in this book. She described the Vietnamese food so well. I was drooling when I was listening to the audiobook because I was craving Vietnamese food so badly because of this book right here. But then also I really love hearing about her marriage with her husband and how amazing her husband is. It's actually really sweet and wholesome. It was just like a really great book, and like I said, if you're a big fan of Ali Wong and her comedy specials on Netflix, I think you will enjoy this book a lot. So I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I love it so freaking much. I'm hoping to get the physical book sometime soon because I listened to this book on Audible, like I said, so I don't have the physical copy, but hopefully I can get one sometime in the future. The last book that I read in November is The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I read this book back in high school. I believe I was like a sophomore, but I read this in French, so I don't remember a lot. I'm really glad that I reread this book in November. So this book is about our main narrator, our main character, and he's a pilot. Basically, he crashes into this desert and then he meets a person named the Little Prince, and then we learn his life and all that fun stuff. I love the discussion of being a child versus being an adult. In the first chapter, the main character, when he was young, he decided to, you know, be an artist, but then all of the adults are like, no, that's not a good career path. So of course he decides to be a pilot. The Little Prince is portrayed really well. He's very one of a kind, and I like the way he's being portrayed in this book, because basically whenever he asks questions and people don't answer his questions, he would ask it again and again and again. It reminds me of how children ask their question over and over again when they're not satisfied with the answers that we give them. But then also just like the journey that the Little Prince went on is also very interesting, because he went on different planets. There's like different characters as well. I don't know, it was just like really well done. So I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I really enjoyed this book. I listened to this book on audio book. That was weird. On Audible, basically. So yeah, I read this book on the last day of November, and that's basically it for, you know, November. I read 4 books, and I really need to step up my reading game in December, because I'm trying to read a lot of books that month. So hopefully my December wrap-up will be a little bit long, because I want to read a lot of books in December. So I'm gonna go, I'm gonna do my homework, and I'm gonna edit this video because I want to get this up as soon as possible. But that's basically it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe for more videos, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.